Okay. Okay. So remember we were last week talking about group leadership skills and the importance of having a great leader in the group, what what the leader brings to it, what they don't bring into the group, and what a co-leader brings and doesn't bring into the group. And we'll get more into how those two intermingle, with the group and how they've how one's role is, how the other person's role is, and so on. So, but the importance of having good leadership skills within the group that you put together. Okay. Yeah. So I can see you all. Okay. So, developing group leadership skills. So, it's essential to acquire and refine your skills. So, the beauty of it is each time you put on a group, hopefully we're learning new things. I remember a person told me if you attend any type of training, attend it 10 times, right? Why is that? Really, because they say you retain 10% of what you learn. So, 10, if you attend it 10 times, hopefully you keep getting something new each time and you learn something new. So, so skill development is considered to be a continuum in your confidence building, right? So you can imagine running. So Felicia, you ran grief share or divorce care. Just think each time that you ran it, I'm sure you got more and more and more confident because you understood, yeah, how it was and you got used to it,
Mhm.
used to presenting it, all of those things, right?
I was really intimidated when our grief share program started at my church. I had just lost my father and father-in-law. I
Oh,
lost them 3 months apart. We went into COVID and we started the
mm,
grief during COVID. So I felt really connected because of my own grief. But
yeah.
when I was asked to help with divorce care, I was scared to death because I felt a little embarrassed because I'm still married, and how do
Yes.
you know, those feelings of I haven't experienced that, and then how will the people receive you because you are married? So, yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that would have been the biggest blessing in terms of group that I've
Isn't
done.
it so once you get past all of that stuff, all that trash that's in our head, right? You can really get down to business and really get down to helping people. And people are there. They want to be helped. I mean, you're really not going to get too many people that are combative or anything like that. If you do, then we have to have leadership skills to, survive those things too. But most people really genuinely want to be helped. And so they're good to work with. Um, so skills are learned. Here's the other thing. So through supervised experience, practice, feedback, participation, members can give you feedback, but it's so important to ask for feedback. So you can have people that are there and they're like, "Oh, what if we did this? What if you change this?" Things like that. And you're, "Oh, yeah, that's good." So it's nothing against your leadership skills or anything like that. It's something that we maybe have a blind spot to or something like that. So it's always good to have that feedback. Advantages of all this decreases the chance of burnout. So important because when you're doing a group, there's a huge chance of becoming burnout, and they're going to see that in you, right? People will notice, you're burned out, you're not giving your all those things. Um, Co-leader, peer supervision is beneficial. Having that co-leader in your group um, that you work well with, there's nothing like it. It's like Batman and Robin type thing, right? So you have your leader and your co-leader, and when the roles are understood in there, it can be so beneficial. Um, Co-leader can help process members' reactions to the other leader. You may, a co-leader may people may come up to them and say, "Hey, I'm really struggling with something that the leader said or is doing or whatever." And then, it's like it's good to have each other's back for one, but maybe they don't feel like they can approach the leader, so they approach the co-leader. And if we're all on the same page, we can help each other through that. Um, okay, I like this. If one leader is absent, the group can still meet with the other leader. And then group members can benefit from two leaders as well. So I always say, what do people do in their internship say when they have a supervisor? They say, I got to share all my notes and I've got to collaborate with my supervisor and all that too. But tell them two heads are better than one. You're getting two for the price of one type thing, right? So that would be a good advantage. So most of the disadvantages in co-leading groups have to do with a poor selection of a co-leader, not vetting them, not asking the right questions, maybe not knowing them. I mean, the best co-leaders are going to be ones you know and have worked with prior in some capacity, right? Maybe a random assignment of another leader might be something detrimental, or I don't know, detrimental, but maybe something that may go against having a good partnership with them. Failure of the two leaders to meet. So what if you just go in cold every time and you haven't discussed who's doing what? And you know what? So we do EMDR at Abundant Life, do the training there. And so when we bring in this one person who facilitates it, we've been doing it for 10 years with this same person. Each time this person comes in, she brings a team, and they've got probably 6 or 7 people um, plus her on this team. So 7 to 8 people total. After every session that they do, it's an 8-hour session, 8 in the morning till 5 at night. Then they meet and collaborate for about an hour. And they've been doing this for 10 years. So they'll come back and just talk about, okay, what went well, what didn't go well, all of those things. So, so important, right? Um, oh, here's one, not sitting across from each other. So just imagine this, having the leader and the co-leader sitting right next to each other. What's that going to cause? Power differential, right? So you want them sitting exactly across from each other. So you can see all that stuff too, but it doesn't appear there's that power, that power differential that you have. Interacting.
Can I just make a comment about
Yeah,
we call it at our church postmortems. Like after every divorce care or
yeah.
grief session, the facilitators kind of come back together and just talk about the night and what happened. I mean,
Hmm.
it's really powerful, one, to know um, if someone has someone in their group that's, exhibiting more severe behaviors that we're not equipped to deal with. And we have a counseling minister at the church, so we will pass along. And then also for praying for people in the group. So it's always a really powerful. And then just sharing some of the learnings that are happening in those groups. So
That's so good. Yeah, having resources, especially, yeah, is very powerful. So you don't have to feel alone in it too as a leader. If somebody does come up and there's something you can't answer, you've got a whole army behind you of people that want to help. So that's, yeah, great point. I love that. Okay. Interacting only with the leader and the co-leader only interacting with each other. That would be a disadvantage, of course. And then having a goal in a group, but not communicating to that to the co-leader. So what if the co-leader feels left out or whatever, are they going to participate if they don't feel like, they understand what's going on? Yeah, they want to feel a part too, just as much as part as leading as the leader. Okay. Continue. Dominating, asserting power over the co-leader. This is the leader doing that to the co-leader. Being right at the expense of making the co-leader look wrong. Woo! How bad would that be within a group, okay? Here's another thing. Now you can do this, but what it's saying is taking turns leading. Now, I think there's a time and place for that. So generally you want one leader so it is consistent throughout the whole thing that you're doing. Now, can you alternate? You could, but there's not that consistency. Okay. Um, so uh, that's why I say it's probably more of a disadvantage to have, taking turns doing that. Now, one time that I think that you could do it is the leader starts, the co-leader maybe does one, leader does one or two more, the co-leader does another one, and then maybe hand off to the co-leader to finish it or something if they're leading one. I mean, you can work something like that out. But if it's that every time, that just doesn't work well. Okay. How about giving and receiving feedback, right? So there's a model to do that. So O, it's the oral model, right? So O is observe the behaviors and events that cause you to have a personal reaction, identify certain behaviors, and so on. Okay. R is report what you saw, the behaviors report what you heard, the words that initiate your reactions. Um, share your assumptions and interpretations about what you saw and heard and the intentions of the receiver. Then L, share the feelings that you experience. Okay. Let's see. So then listen carefully to the feedback of the individual, right? Paraphrase what you heard. These are just really just uh, counseling skills, right? So listen to what you heard, paraphrase what you heard, the feedback sender say to you, and reach an agreement with the sender that you have heard the feedback accurately. These are listening skills, right? Ask others in your group about their perceptions of the behavior being addressed. So they get other people involved in a way that is productive. Decide if you want to try on a different behavior. What do we want to achieve, through the interaction and the discussion? Okay, this is a group thing. So I wanted to get into the next chapter before we start our group counseling here. So I will have to get out of this real quick. Mhm. Don't you have to love all the stuff you have to do just to get a PowerPoint up? Okay, here's chapter 5. I may have said 4, I meant 5 if I did say 4. But yeah, chapter 5. Let me start the slideshow here. Okay, so forming a group. So how do we do that? How do we create a new group? Okay. So what we will try to accomplish is list and discuss the main tasks required and form a group, the approaches of group formation, practical considerations, describe the purposes and use of pre-group meetings, which are important, identify some key co-leader issues in forming that group, and so on. Okay, so introduction here. Groups are being created in a variety of ways to fit special needs of diverse clientele in many different settings. So you can just imagine, Felicia, you talked about it, just our church is the same when you have grief. Okay. somebody's out there who's created Grief Share, which is an awesome thing. It's already pre-done for you, and it's one that can be run really well, and it's proven, it's proven efficacy, all of that stuff too. So it's proven to work. Now you may want to create your own group, okay? And it could be, I had two young ladies that did a group for women who were married to narcissist men, right? Or divorced from narcissist men, I think was more of the group. But it was the trauma that, they received from it. Okay. So they did a trauma group based upon that, right? So it was, I was like going, I don't know if that's highly needed or not. And so they put it together, proposed it, advertised for it, and they had 8 women show up. It was really, really good. Okay. So they did a lot of good work in there. So then groups have become increasingly popular and have been designed to meet both the needs of the clients and the demands of the agency setting. So if you look at, especially insurance companies love groups because you can take care of a lot of people all at one time. That's why they're becoming more popular. And another thing is if you are a counselor and you're running a business, groups are very popular because you can thrive in your business that way and help more people, all at one time. So it's very popular. Okay. So this is how to propose a group. So we will run through this together. So breaking, what I would have people doing is breaking into groups based on your theoretical orientation, what that means, like if you're CBT or psychoeducation or whatever. Okay. So we would agree upon together on a group that you want to run, indicating the following formations: the type of group, rationale for the group, and objectives of the group. Okay. So if we're proposing a group all together, what this looks like is we want to answer together the following questions for this group, okay? Um, Group composition. Who's going to be in this group? What's it going to be made of? I mean, obviously, if we're doing grief share or something like that, it's individuals who have it's designed for individuals who have lost someone. So it's not created for people who have lost a pet or a job or anything like that. It is specifically designed, Grief Share is designed for people who have lost an individual in their life. Okay. So that's the group composition. Okay. Size. We have to, always agree on the size. Now, if it's Alcoholics Anonymous, they could have 50 people in there because it's more maybe psychoeducation and somebody talking and presenting or something like that. But if it's not like that, what if it's a process group and you're going to process something like anxiety or something like that? You want a much, much, much smaller group, right? Basically, 6 to 12 people is where you want to land. 8 to 10, perfect, right? But 6 to 12, I think, is a good number too. You don't want many more than that because a lot of things start happening during that time. People, if there's more than that, people don't talk because they're either waiting on another person or maybe one person will take control and just so many things can go on. The smaller group you have, the more people are going to get to know each other and the more chances that you'll have that everybody will participate. I remember having a group and it was a Gottman marriage group. It's called Seven Principles for Making Marriage Work. And I had probably um, probably 12 to 15 couples in there, so 30 people. It was great. Nobody talked. I'm like, what is wrong? Am I just this bad or whatever? So the next time I ran it, I limited it to um, I think 6 couples. And man, they bonded in such a way, and there was so much collaboration, and it was a lot of discussions, and it was just so much better. So it was just the size of the group that mattered, right? Was it? I didn't do anything differently in the presentation or the material or anything. So anyway, so group size matters, okay? Frequency and duration. Do we want it once a week? Do we need it every day? Like Alcoholics Anonymous, they have every day type things. If you want to meet every day, you can. Or if it's just grief share, once a week is adequate, right? So, and then how long do we want it to last? Each meeting could be an hour, 2 hours. Don't want it much longer than 2 hours. People start fading after that. But so that's the duration that we want to talk about, right? Length of group. How many weeks do we want it? Grief Share is a 13-week deal, which I think is pretty long, but it's a good group. Now, I think adequate would be 8 weeks. That's a good rule of thumb is, 8 weeks for a group, 6 to 10 weeks type thing. Place for the meetings, obviously, Grief Share works well in a church because it's Christian based. Okay. Things like that. If it's Christian based, it'll work well in a church, things like that. So where are we going to meet? Is it going to be open versus closed? You remember that what that was, right? So open means that anybody can join at any time. Closed is, okay, we start with a group of people and we end with that same group of people. Now we can lose people, but we're not going to add anybody. Okay. So that's a closed group. Then we want to do an evaluation after this is done, right? After the group is done. So how did we do? How can we improve? What are things that you think that would have been more beneficial for you and things like that too? Okay. So when we create the informed consent, so informed consent is kind of your rules and regulations of the group. And why it matters is it's telling you that I'm informing you that everything is going to remain confidential as much as we can. There's rules within the group, like we're going to say. Nobody talks about this group outside of uh, talking here, right? You don't talk about anybody outside. You could talk about what you talk about, but not, if there's any people in there. We want to keep that confidential. So when we're creating the informed consent, credentials of the leader, why do we want credentials of the leader in the informed consent?
It's being open and transparent with the people just so they know.
Yeah. Yeah. Is this person um, do they have the education, not the education of like, going to school and all this, but do they understand what this group is all about? So, like if you have somebody that's doing, um, I don't know, like a anxiety group, are they licensed? Are they not licensed? Do they have letters behind their name that would suggest that they've been through some anxiety training? Things like that too. So yeah, we absolutely want the credentials of the leader um, provided. Ethical guidelines, right? Ethics of the group, keeping everything confidential, HIPAA compliant, all of these things, right? Then we want to know what are the goals and purpose of it, right? So when somebody comes comes into the group, they're like, I want to know what I will be doing during this. What are my expectations that I can expect upon completion of this, and so on. Um, Counseling approach, that means, is it going to be psychoeducational? Is it going to be a CBT group? Is it going to be, a group that utilizes emotion focused therapy? What kind of counseling approach is going to work with this? Are we going to be doing assessments and so on? Okay. Expectations for participation. Is it voluntary or involuntary? Meaning, do does the person have to be there. So maybe a court said, you've had 3 DUIs, and so I want you to go through this Alcoholics Anonymous, and you have to go through a year of it or whatever, and then that's your probation or whatever it is, right? So do they have to, are they there voluntarily or is it involuntary? Expectations for participation. Generally, if I'm a leader, I want you, if you're here week 1, I want you here week 10 when we're finished. That's my expectations for you. Okay. What are the risks and benefits of this meaning? Say, Jennifer's going to do an EMDR group. And so say maybe we practice some EMDR. What are the risks and benefits of? Well, the risks are, man, I may open something up about my trauma that may be scary to me. So if that happens, how will you support me in that? Right? So if I get scared and then it's 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night and group's over, are you going to shove me out the door and I'm on my own? Right? What are the risks of this? What are the benefits of? So once this is done, I should have been able to work through what ails me um, and it be something of benefit for me. Length and termination. How long is it? 8, 10, 12 weeks, whatever. When we terminate, what's that look like? Can I rejoin at another time? What's termination look like? What about interruptions in therapy? Say I get 3 weeks into it and I can't attend for the next 2 weeks after that. Can I come back? Or is it if I miss one meeting, am I totally out? Type thing. Okay. What about interruptions in therapy? Okay. Then counselor and group member involvement. What are the roles? What's the role of the leader, the co-leader? What's my role as a participant, and so on? Procedures for consultation between group leaders and members. What if something comes up? So Jennifer's going to do an EMDR group. What if something comes up that I can't really handle well? How are we as a team going to handle that? Okay. Confidentiality, how is that handled? So I would always put something in the group saying, hey, this group is confidential, but it's only as confidential as you guys, the confidentiality that you bring into it. So me as a leader, I cannot promise that anything outside of these walls once it's a group. So group members may talk about each other. We're putting it in there that you shouldn't and all that stuff too, but I can't control everybody. Okay, so that's limits of confidentiality. Okay, counseling and financial records. What's that look like? Fees. Is there insurance reimbursement? Disputes, complaints, affiliation relationship, colleague consultations, recording dual relationships. So all of these things, what we got to be thinking about something happening with all this stuff. Will we record? Most of them aren't. They're just process groups, but maybe they will be recorded. Dual relationships, how do we handle those types of things? Okay. Attracting and screening members. Important, right? So the type of group determines the kind of members that are suitable and unsuitable. So I did my internship and then I would run Grief Share after my internship. So I probably did it 5, 6, 7 times. I learned during it too. So like my very first time running through it, I had a group of probably 7 ladies, okay? All widows. Yeah, sorry. And then one person came in that had just lost her husband 2 weeks prior. So I'm like, yeah, come on in, all that stuff too. Well, she was not prepared to go through this. She lost it. I mean, her grief was so bad during this time that it was just not she was just not ready for everything that was going on. So I pulled her aside, said, I'm so sorry that this is happening. Let's get you individual counseling. So we got her individual grief counseling, and it was so much better that way for this individual. And the other part that we found was the other members would spend the whole time focused on her and consoling and things like that. So I learned my lesson. So I implemented in there, um, you would have had to have lost the person at least 6 months prior. Okay, 6 months to a year is perfect timing, but anyway. So I learned, you learn during, putting all those things on. So, okay, important questions to think about. Okay. Should this person be included in this group at this time with this leader? That's what we just kind of talked about, right? Develop a list of questions that you might ask potential group members. That's kind of vetting, right? Yeah, one of the questions I would ask these individuals, these seven ladies, um, what's your purpose for coming in? When you lost a person, in your life, that when was that, and so on. Okay. But you want to vet, is this the right group for it, or would another group be better? Okay. Or am I the right leader for it, for this person as well? And what are their expectations and so on. Okay. What methods of screening will you use? Will it be phone calls? Will it be questionnaires on paper? Will it be somebody else making phone calls to them? What type of screening will you do with the individuals? Or do you even have to screen? Maybe it's like Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's an open group, so you don't have to screen. It's everybody's welcome type thing. Felicia, you have a question?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the screening piece, especially for divorce care. We've struggled with having men come and stay the whole time because a lot of times, it's not a lot of men, first of all, and then sometimes they get a little beat up because it's primarily women. Have you ever done a group where it's all men, where you just invite men, and what are your thoughts about it?
Funny you should say.
Hmm.
Okay. So at my counseling center, I run the groups too. I don't run them, but I've, put them together. Okay. We have had divorce care, and we've had the same leader for, I don't know, 10 years, something close to that. Um, so her husband doesn't help her. So it was just her leading. And we found, okay, men were coming in, but they weren't staying. They did. They felt beat up. They, because it was like, you're the reason for all this stuff, is how they would feel. Okay. So what we did is we have, so on Monday nights, we have women. Tuesday nights, we have this whole men's ministry called Base Camp, where you come in and you can pick the ministry that you want to attend, and Divorce Care for Men is part of that. Beautiful thing is, we had 8 men sign up for it last, um, the very first time we put it on. Guess how many we had finish? 8 men. Yeah. So it is so beneficial. Now I will say, if you had co-leaders, a woman and a man co-leading, that would help your chances. But we just found, yeah, separating them for divorce care was a very smart idea.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. That's why I was smiling when you were asking that question. Yeah, very good. Okay. How can you determine who may or may not benefit from the group? It's a very good one. How might you deal with a candidate who is not appropriate for your group? Okay. So Felicia, along those lines of divorce care, Some people may be going into it saying, I'm looking for another wife or another husband or something, right? So that's really not appropriate. You're not processing, you got ulterior motives, right? So, okay. Let's see here. Okay. So some advantages of a group, right? It offers support for new behaviors and encourages experimentation. So, like we said last week, so important that we view this group as a smaller picture of the larger whole of, the world outside there, right? So, what's it look like on the inside? We should make it so they can recreate that on the outside, either at home, work, church, whatever, but in the world, okay? Well, here's this. What I just said is kind of the next bullet point, right? It's a microcosm of a real world and allows us to see how we relate to others. So that it also helps us, like if we have some individuals in the group and they want to practice, inside the group, and maybe you do um, the two-chair technique, or one person talks to another, or you split up groups. How are you going to have conversations, practicing these conversations and gaining confidence so that you could have conversations like that outside of the group. That's kind of one example, right? Provides an optimal arena for members to discover how they were perceived and experienced by others. So, those two individuals talking to each other, or the group working together, um, how am I perceived? Am I thinking right? Is my thinking, my thought process, my behaviors, and all of this thing something that is appropriate for outside of these walls, right? Then you can help members see that they are not alone in their concerns. Here's one of the biggest things. It's like, they're going to ask, am I normal? These thoughts that I'm having, and then they come into a group and they go, wow, everybody else is having these same thoughts. It's called normalizing, right? So normalizing your thought process. Um, so so very important. Okay. A few misconceptions about groups. Okay. Groups are suited for everyone. No. A lot of times people need that individual group work, group work, individual counseling. Okay. And maybe group work is not going to work for them. That lady who was 2 weeks out from losing her husband, it was so much more beneficial for her to do individual counseling than it was for group. So she did that, and guess what? She came back that next year and went through grief share, and it was beautiful for her. And the beauty of it was she learned so much in individual counseling that she was helping others within the group. So it was a beautiful thing. The main goal of a group is everyone to achieve closeness. Yeah, we're not. That ain't gonna happen. In the real world that's not gonna happen, right? Not everybody's gonna be close and not gonna be best friends. All of those things, and that's okay. But how do I deal with people who are different from me? Maybe multiculturalism. How do I interact with individuals who are different from me in many different ways? Okay. Another misconception, groups tell people how they should be. Yeah, that's a big misconception, right? Group pressure forces members to lose their sense of identity. No, that if anything, we want their identity to grow. Who are they in this group? We want it to grow. Groups are artificial and unreal. No, they should all be organic. That should be the quest for us to make it so what it looks like here is out there, and so they can gain confidence, we can encourage one another, and so on. Okay. Okay. The uses of pre-group meetings. So your people who are starting tonight, Camille is one of them, Carolyn's the other. Um, they met this week. What's our group gonna look like, right? So they could prepare each other. Who's gonna lead, all of those things. So they discussed all of those things. So a pre-group meeting, it would look like these things. So time for setting expectations during this pre-group, establishing group rules and procedures, role preparation, and skill building during that time, okay? An ideal time to focus on the client's perceptions, expectations, and concerns. Positively associated with group cohesion and member satisfaction, preparing members for group experience is a key aspect of informed consent. And then last, the standard practice for members of short-term therapy groups. So this is all about setting expectations. Here's what you should get out of this. Here's what our expectations are of you. Do you have questions? So on, right? How can we make this the most beneficial experience for them so that they get their needs met? So goals of the pre-group preparation are this as well. Demystifying the therapeutic process is central in preparing members for group. So if somebody has never attended a group or counseling or something, they go in with these preconceived notion that I'm going to lay down on the couch and they're going to sit behind me and I'm just going to spill my guts and then I'm going to feel better. So no, we want to describe to them, no, this is actually what counseling looks like. Okay. You're going to do this work. Counselor's going to do this work. And this is how we're going to work together. Describe how group work helps members enhance interpersonal relationships. So when you're done with this, uh, you should be able to work with others in this type of way, right? Encourage members to raise questions about the purpose and the goals of the group. Yeah, encourage it. So if anybody is not understanding where they're headed, meaning the group, where the group is headed, or what their role is in it, or whatever, yeah, we need to ask questions so there's clarity. Without clarity, that person will not be 100% involved, right? Goals of pre-group preparation: anticipate frustrations and disappointment participants are likely to encounter. Maybe our first group that we run, we may not know a lot of those. We'll have blind spots. And it's like we don't know what we don't know type thing until we run it. And I go, oh, didn't anticipate this. Glad that it came through. Um, did it hurt the group, or whatever, right? So there's going to be things and individuals are going to be frustrated. So here's the other part. There's stages of change and there's stages of group, but not everybody's going to be at the same stage of change as each other, right? We want to get everybody to that, and that's when we're doing the working portion of the group. Everybody should be in that around the same stage, but it's not always going to be that way when we begin. Okay. Establish some procedures that will facilitate group process. When this comes up, what do we do? How are we going to run this? Are we going to keep things on time? So on. Nothing would be worse than getting in a group that's supposed to last an hour and you have a group leader that lets it go on 3 hours and you're sitting there going, I ain't coming back to this, right? So, if it's going to last an hour, you make it an hour, you stop, right? Those things, okay? Instill faith in group work. So what are the kind of things that I always say? Trust the process, right? There should be a process with that group that you're going, and that process goes to the stages of work. So we're talking about forming right now. So everybody's going to be lost in all of this, and there's going to be a lot of questions, and there might be some frustration, or because you have people that come in and go, I want to be better right now, and I don't want to do the work. I just want the silver bullet that you are going to make me better just by waving a magic wand, okay? So we have to set those expectations, but instill that faith in the group to say if you do all of these things, you do the work, you're going to get better, okay? Or things will be better for you. Discuss ground rules about confidentiality, subgrouping. What's subgrouping?
Would that be like breakout sessions, the smaller groups?
Yeah, so you're on the right track, but what it would be is subgrouping within your big group. So
Okay.
meaning maybe three people, they bond together and it's only them talking,
Okay.
whatever. So you got to watch out that they're the only ones participating and all the other people are not. So subgroups will be made, possibly. So we just got to be as leaders recognize that and make sure that everybody has that opportunity to participate. Good job. All right. Co-leader issues when forming the group, okay? Share equal responsibility in forming the group and getting it off to a strong start. Absolutely. And know your role, know your lane, all of those things. So how do we do that? We meet in advance to clarify the group's purpose so that the leader and the co-leader are on the same page. This is the vision of the group and this is where we're headed. We're all on the same page. What you hope to accomplish with the time that you have and how you will meet your objectives. So very important. I mean, obviously you want all of that in place. So it's just not you meeting for an hour and there's no basis for why you're there, or people are just going to get they're going to go, what are we doing here, type thing. Explore your philosophies and leadership styles and develop a strong working relationship. um, so very important to understand that feedback that you'll be getting from them, but not only feedback from the participants, feedback from your co-leader or your leader, whatever the case may be. Because not every leadership style is going to work with the group. Um, yeah, there's going to be many times where the culture of the group, the environment, the makeup, the chemistry of the group may not work with, with the leader, right? It may be totally different. So what happens when we do those things? Is the leader adaptable in all of this, to different types and scenarios of groups? Effective co-leadership requires co-leaders to have a good working relationship with the leader, right? That's why it doesn't really, I mean, it could work if you're just assigned a co-leader, could work. I mean, but generally, the best ones are where the leader and co-leader know each other and they work well, and obviously, and things like that. So, time spent planning and getting to know one another as co-leaders can greatly influence the success of your work together and start you off in a positive direction. Nothing more important than having those upfront meetings, collaborating, sharing ownership of it, but making sure that each person, meaning the leader, co-leader, they feel heard and seen and all of those things. So no co-leader wants to come in and the leader just runs the whole show and the co-leader is just sitting there. No, they want to participate. They want that ownership too. But just what is their role compared to the leader's role? Okay. It is 7 o'clock. Okay, so they're going to be here at 7:15. How about any questions that you might have? I've got a few questions that I want to ask you to maybe collaborate, but questions might you have over what we just went over?
Mine would be that confidentiality piece and group counseling is a little concerning. I mean, how can you contain that?
Yeah, that's the whole deal. And you have to put in your informed consent too that confidentiality can't be guaranteed, you know.
Okay.
But if you're a group member in there and see, I mean, it's just so much faith that you have to have in everybody that they're going to keep their stuff, everybody's stuff quiet and everything, but you can't
Right.
guarantee it. But that has to
And
be,
I imagine that it deters some people from wanting to do group counseling because of that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yes, that could be part of it. But I think if you can tell individuals in group counseling, the collaboration that you get, the community that you get, all of those things are outweigh what. Because here's the thing in confidentiality, what may be it, depending on what the group is about, right?
Mhm.
What are you really going to disclose that will be something? Now, now if a person knows you personally or they know one of your friends or something like that. Oh, here's what this person said in this, right? You know. But generally, hopefully you wouldn't have to worry about things like that, there's really not going to be these big secrets that are going to come out. Now, if there is something, I would encourage individuals to do individual counseling if
Right.
that,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
I always
go.
wondered about that. I mean, I never gone to, I mean, we went to marriage counseling, group counseling, that, but that was just kind of a preventive kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although some wasn't, some of the people that in there weren't. But I was really curious about that in as far as a addiction setting.
Mhm.
I've never been to one, so I was curious about, how um, a person would feel
Oh,
and allowing that kind of information, being leaked to workplaces in the community. And that would be, I would think that would be concerning for some people.
absolutely.
Just to kind of, so my local church, we divorce care is one of those things that is a sensitive topic. We Sunday we had a ministry fair where it's kind of like a job fair where all the ministries are there and people can come sign up. And divorce care is one of those interesting ones. People will be walking down the aisle and then they see the divorce table and they kind of curve.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And it's one of those ones that, I've had people ask me about, hey, can you refer me to a different one away from our local church? So, and I go to a fairly large church, but people still struggle with, you know, getting that kind of support in their own
Mhm.
local church. So, we just try to encourage people that, this is our safe space. We want to respect privacy. And I've had people say, someone that might be in ministry leaderships, like it's tough because people will come up to you. Like I always tell people, I'm never going to tell people how I know you outside of this group. Like in church, if you come up and give me a hug, you're just somebody I know at church. It's not we met in divorce care. And so I think trying to set, healthy boundaries and know that there will be people that sometimes operate. But our ministry leader has been really good when she's made aware of it. She will go to people just to try to, reemphasize that we want to create a space where people aren't made to feel uncomfortable because we're sharing outside of the group.
Yeah, yeah, that's yeah, very good. I remember going to a church and okay, so our lead pastor was presenting at, I think it was the Missouri State Pastors, whatever. So there were like 600 pastors in the building. So he asked us to go down there because what he was going to talk about was burnout and stuff like that that would happen with pastors, right? So the funny thing about it is like going, we got a group of counselors. So there was me and I think three other counselors made the trip to Springfield from Kansas City. So we were there and they go, now we'll have three counselors here. So any of you pastors that want to talk about blah blah blah, And it was funny because I'm standing there and these pastors come up and they see my face, they go, whoop. It's like, yeah, none of them, they were like going, I don't want to be a senior around because that shows what weakness in me, right? I'm like going, no, it shows strength in you. That's what I love. So anyway, it was funny because our pastor noticed that and then he kind of said something about that afterwards. And so people then I got, and, after it was, they felt okay for people. We probably had 20, 30 pastors come up and talk about issues and things like that. It was really, really good. So, Macy?
Joyce was asking about like addiction group program.
Yeah.
I went to one for like 2 sessions and they've definitely made sure to address confidentiality and like to not acknowledge the person like if you're outside of that setting because they would know that you would like were an addict at one point. And as I'm reflecting on the information that we learned in this class, I realized that I did breach confidentiality because I said hi to the lady that led the group, and then later my mom asked, "Well, who is that?" And I proceeded to tell my mom who it was. So it's definitely difficult, especially just seeing people out in public and like at the time I didn't think that was a breach of confidentiality because I didn't tell all the details. I just said, "Oh, they're in this group with me."
Yeah.
But that leads to people having assumptions and they can fill in the blanks. And so it is important. And you also have to acknowledge that it can be difficult on that person too because they want to share with their loved ones how the group's going and things of that sort. So it's kind of just a difficult thing to manage both sides as a counselor and a participant.
Yes. That's so good. So how'd you feel after that?
Well, I could tell she knew, like, and she like was gonna call me out, but she didn't call me out until like the next session, and like kind of like didn't do it in front of the group, but like told me that next time either just wave at me instead of actually saying hi, or like
Yeah.
so like it was fine, but it did make us both uncomfortable afterwards. But I'm glad she
Yeah.
called me out so I understood because I've never done group counseling except that one time, and it's definitely different than individual counseling.
That is so good. So, I mean, thanks for talking about that too, because it's a whole different world, counseling. It's like,
Hmm.
all these things that you have to remember. Yeah, but, once things happen to you, it's in you now, right?
Yeah,
So,
now I know. I'm like, I'm
you,
not even gonna tell you who's in this group or what we're talking about.
yeah,
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 yeah.
absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. Any other questions? Okay, hang on one second. Let me bring up. Okay. Um, so after we've gone through these things, what we just talked about forming, um, let me ask you a couple questions. So we talked about screening. So why do you feel screening is critical before admitting individuals into the group? What do you think?
I think I've seen the example you talked about where someone in a grief class was just um, it was so fresh that it was
Yes.
more of a distraction to the
Mhm.
group
Yeah.
than and the person's progress wasn't moving forward. So I think people register through our church and they get some critical information, and the ministry leader will tell somebody, hey, we usually recommend. Now, they haven't just told them they can't come, but she will reach out privately and say, hey, we recommend you have like it, and ours is 6 months before, post the death of a loved one that you,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think because it can just become a distraction and something that's not beneficial to the group if people aren't
Yeah.
in the right headspace.
I love that. I mean, and that's the thing is like you learn. I mean, like, the very first time I did it, and I felt so bad. I felt like I had really done something wrong against this person because but I didn't know what I didn't know. And you learn, about that too. So obviously, Felicia, somebody's learned from your group and maybe learned it the hard way. Okay. But well, like Macy, what her story was, she learned something the hard way, right? And so, but that comes from experience, right? So it builds that confidence.
And sometimes, oh, another funny for you, someone signed up for Grief Share because their pet had died.
Yeah.
And and so, they told them it's about human death and not pet death, and tried to be sensitive to it, but
Yeah.
yeah, people will, extrapolate it into other things, and that can be not beneficial as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had people who call and say, "Hey, I'd like to do this. Oh, tell me about the person you lost." Or, "No, I didn't. I lost a job." And they're grieving, losing something that was such a vital part. Maybe it was their business or something like that. So, and that could, be something important. I'm like, it just, and then okay, you're grieving this stuff, and there is something, you know, for that, but it will be such a distraction, away from what the purpose and main points of the group are. So very good. So Jennifer, you want to tell just a little bit about your group, what you were thinking of? She put together this thing and ran it by me, and I thought it was great. But how did you come to that? If you don't want to talk about it, yeah,
No, that's great.
okay,
So a lot of it's because of just my own journey,
yeah,
just with grief. I've had grief and never really knew that there was anything that could fix, not grief, sorry, trauma. I've
trauma,
had
yeah,
grief in the brain. I've had
yeah,
trauma, didn't realize that, first of all, I didn't know what it was. I just thought, what's wrong? I thought something's wrong with me. Why am I reacting this way? Why am I having panic
yeah,
attacks? And I
yes,
knew that I had had some big things that had happened, but I didn't understand what was going on in my brain. So I went through EMDR even this summer, um, and experienced like I had done a lot of personal work on my trauma, but I was still having physiological symptoms. So I went through EMDR after studying it and thinking, okay, the stats are really great on this. I'm going to try it. Um, and was just shocked at the difference it made. So my group is, so I guess I have a heart to help people with that. I feel like I've been in the journey of like processing stuff for years. But my group is going to be, I'm doing one that's kind of like a pre-EMDR type of group where with a lot of somatic types of exercises like polyvagal exercises, breathing, just things that can physically be done to calm the nervous system, and psychoeducation, talking, about how trauma affects the brain, how it, you know, all of that, how it affects everything.
that's
Um,
awesome.
so yeah, so is that what you were asking me?
Yeah, yeah,
Can
yeah,
I
yeah.
overshare?
And I know you're not going to get down to the nuts and bolts because you haven't done all that. Yeah, yeah. So I just want
Right.
to get an overview of it. That's so very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's one thing. So we are going to start about um if you guys can take about is 10 minutes good before we start? Let's do 10 minutes. So come back at 7:25 and I'll have them hopefully one or both will be on by then, and we'll get started at 7, probably 7:30. But if you can come on at 7:25, I just want to introduce and do all those things. Okay? All right. I'll see you in 10 minutes. Thank you.